Duber kama piyamim. We've discussed many times. Advar shemes parshes haTorah, about the names of the parshas of the Torah. Dezeh shakol parsha nikras b'shem mesuyam. The fact that a given parsha carries a particular name, hu lefi, it's because sheb'shem zeh nirmaz, in this name is hinted gam techen parsha, the whole of the parsha. In other words, the name is usually one of the first few words of a parsha, but the name is not simply arbitrary or coincidental, but it's precise. It represents the whole parsha. If this is true in the whole Chumash, it's also true in this parsha. And the parsha is the Shema Asher Yikru Labalash Apiminig Yisrael Vayeshev. The name of the parsha is Vayeshev. Says the Rabbi, we must say Shabei Merumas Techno Shel Parsha. Then the word Vayeshev is hinted the entire spirit of Parshat Vayeshev. What's the problem? Vayeshev and Parshat Vayeshev are diametrically opposite. Listen to this. B'tzarech lahav, and the question is obvious. Vayeshev pirushay, the word Vayeshev means hisyashvus, to settle. Moreover, it means beifin shel shalva menucha, serenity, peace. And what is Vayeshev about? Tzaras. U'bedrashes chazal b'reish Parshat Vayeshev, u'kid drashes chazal b'reish Parshat Vayeshev. In the beginning of Parshat Vayeshev, the rabbis teach us, Bikish Yaakov Leisha B'Shalva, Yaakov is hoping to find serenity. However, the parsha as a whole, the story, the narrative of the parsha, who be'inyan mechirasel shel Yosef, discusses Yosef's sale, shehefriya, which disturbed, v'shalala, and offset, es vayeshev Yaakov, Yaakov's being settled. In other words, es menuchase v'shalvasa shel Yaakov, the contentment and the serenity of Yaakov Avinu, ukidrashes chazal hanal, in the words of the chazal, bikish Yaakov v'chol, he wanted to have peace, Kofatz alav, it sprung upon him, Rug Yosef, the tzara, the anger of Yosef's disappearance. So the question is, the name of the parsha connotes calm, settle. The spirit of the parsha is frustration. When the parsha finishes, Yaakov doesn't know if Yosef is alive, and he's beside himself, distraught with pain and sorrow, and Yosef's sitting in jail. That's how the parsha finishes. There's nothing good going on, and the name of the parsha is Vayeshev. So of course the Rebbe is going to answer this question by asking more questions. Because Yaakov Leisha B'Shalva, Yaakov hopes to sit in peace, results in Kafat Allah V'Rug Yosef. Right, the Chazal says Yaakov wants to live in peace, and on him springs the wrath of Yosef. Says Rashi, Tzadikim Mevakshim Leisha B'Shalva. Tzadikim wish to have serenity. Omar HaKadosh Baruch, when Hashem tells them Leidayin LeTzadikim, is it not enough for Tzadikim? Masha mesukam lehem le'elam haba. What's been set aside from the world to come? They want to have peace in this world. On the other side, they'll have peace. Ella shemevakshim leishim v'shalv be'elam hazeh. They wish to have serenity in this world, and of course, the impression is that it's somehow bad for a tzaddik to look for serenity. Hapirish b'maymer zeh. The apparent interpretation of this medrash, lefi mefarshe hamedrash v'Rashi, according to the commentators as well as Rashi, who is it is because Yaakov wishes to have serenity. In other words, it's as if Yaakov brings this on himself. By Yaakov hoping to settle down and relax, he causes the Eibush to give him more tzaras. Last line on page 117, it says in the Medrash, Yaakov Avinu al yedei, because Shabikesh Leisha B'Shalva, because of his hope to rest in serenity and peace, Be'elam Hazeh, in this world, Nizdavik Leisik Yosef, on him happened the hatred, the tzaras of Yosef. So that almost gives you the impression that for a tzaddik to want a good life is like a bad thing.
Because you want serenity, Yosef was sold?
That's why the tragedy of Yosef's sale happened. That's what Rashi says. Now, even if you were to accept that Rashi is indicating that benegeh to Yaakov, as far as Yaakov himself is concerned, that his desire for serenity brought about this tragedy, we could interpret it perhaps in a less than adequate way. Wanting this was considered on Yaakov's part a sin. Such a big tzaddik should not want peace. He wants peace. No good, he gets punished. Says Rebbe, Harehem shechaloshin, but there's a problem. What's the problem? Because the Medrash says tzaddikim bevakshim leisha b'shalva. All tzaddikim want serenity. If Yaakov is the only one, you could say Yaakov desiring it was undesirable. But the Medrash then says tzaddikim, all tzaddikim want shalva. Mashmai, this indicates shezehu hamavuke shal tzaddikim b'chlal. All tzaddikim want peace. Umekivan shenikraim b'shem tzaddikim, and if they're all called tzaddikim, pshit, it's obvious sha'akavanu l'tzaddikim amiti. We're talking about true tzaddikim. And what are true tzaddikim? She'ein behem chet v'yavim chas v'shalom. They have no sin. So if it's only Yankov, you could say, okay, with wrong for Yankov to want. But the Medrash says all tzaddikim want serenity. If all tzaddikim want serenity, how can we say all tzaddikim's desire to have serenity will be a chet and a chasar? In other words, if it's only about Yankov, you can say, okay, he made a mistake, he shouldn't have wanted it. But it's not only about Yankov, it's about all tzaddikim. And it's very difficult to say that all tzaddikim want something that they really aren't supposed to want. And therefore the Rebbe says in the left column of page 118, we must therefore say, the tzaddikim's desire to have serenity, Eini inyan shlili, is not undesirable. Which is bad, to the contrary, it's an appropriate conduct with tzaddik. Part of what a tzaddik should do is reach a station where he wants peace. And then he gets into trouble for it. He's supposed to want it. Yaakov was not wrong in desiring shalva. No, it's good. You're supposed to want shalva. So if you want shalva, why did the tzaddik come afterwards? So the Rebbe is going to explain something to us very, very wonderful. I want you guys to realize that last week I learned a very similar class. And this morning when I was preparing this, my big question is, should I teach you this sikh as well? I don't know if you remember the last class, but we talked, amongst other things, that you only have peace after struggle. And the more peace you want, the more struggle you need. So Yaakov goes through more tzaddas to have greater peace. This sikha makes a very, very similar point. So it becomes, in effect, like learning two sikhas that are making the same point. But they're not. This sikha is much more comprehensive than last week's sikha, which is why I chose that we should learn it. And what the Rebbe is going to tell us is, Yaakov wanted peace. The peace that Yaakov wanted, he could have gotten right away. God elected to give him an even higher peace that he wasn't even wanting. And the higher peace, which he was not electing, that the Eibishter chose for him, warranted Rukza Sheyesef. So number one, for a tzaddik to want shalva is good. Number two, the shalva that Yaakov wanted was also good. What's the kafat Allah of Rukza Sheyesef? Yaakov wants one shalva. Hashem decides, I'm going to give him a second shalva. But the second shalva requires another regis. Okay, now let's learn it inside. Bakashos on page 119. Bakashosam shal tzadikim leisha b'shalva. The righteous desire to live in peace and serenity. Hainu b'shalva shlema v'amitis, which is a serenity which is true, whole, perfect, and peaceful, and true. Of course, it doesn't mean material peace. It means a spiritual peace. Al derech, similar to hashalva shav, the serenity that will be in the world to come. That has no eating and drinking. Tzadikim yeshu tzadikim sit and bask in the glory of God. And Hashem doesn't like that. No. You shouldn't want elam haba. Therefore says, it's not enough for tzadikim. What I put aside for elam haba, they want peace in this world? Absolutely not. So the tzaddik wants elam haba, and Hashem says no. Even though dafke in elam haba we entitled to rest, because in this world we're not supposed to seek serenity and peace, we're supposed to serve the Eibishter. Page 119, second column. Harei, says the Rebbe, nevertheless, bakashosam shal tzadikim leisha b'shalva, the tzaddik's desire to have serenity is not what you think it means. A tzaddik wants real serenity, which is olam haba like. So you imagine it means he wants to stop working and have reward. Says the Rebbe, no, you don't understand. And the Rebbe brings the Rambam. This, I think, can be correctly called one of the Rebbe's favorite Rambams. The Rambam discusses reward, and he makes it very clear that reward is spiritual. But the Rambam then asks a question. The whole Tanakh, whenever it discusses reward, talks about what we used to call in our Olam Haba classes, pizza with extra cheese. Physical things. This week's Parsha, you're going to have rain, you're going to have all kinds of abundant material goodnesses. So the Shaila is, if the Rambam holds that the only real reward is Olam Haba, why does the Torah full of allusions to physical reward? And what's the answer? Let's read it inside. The tzaddik wants peace in this world, not to rest, to have opportunity to serve Hashem better, until it reaches whole shleim. But you see it like this. There's a famous argument. When is a Jew going to be able to be a better servant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? When he's cold and hungry and poor, or when he's warm and not afraid, sated and rich? There's Pashta Machlaikis. There are many Jews who will tell you, if you look in Sifrei Musa, you get the impression that whenever life gets good, man gets lazy. Shamanta v'zikasisa. The Chumash says it. It's almost like the more you suffer, the holier you are. And unfortunately, our history has borne that out. You with me? But the Rambam doesn't agree with that. The Rambam agrees with the Baal Shem Tov. You have to be healthy. You can't learn Torah when you're hungry and you're cold and you're afraid and you're sick. So the Rambam believes that in order to be a servant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you need Gashmi as the Gebrachas. A lot don't agree, but that's the Rambam's opinion. Therefore, the Rambam holds that when we talk about getting material abundance and blessing, it's not a reward. It's an opportunity. Let's keep reading. The Rambam holds the desire for Mashiach is why they're going to be rid of governments that prevent them from learning Torah, doing mitzvahs appropriately. They'll find calm, peace, serenity. They'll grow in Torah. Hashem takes all your worries. You don't sit around and eat peaches. You learn Torah and you do mitzvahs, you become a Gadol B'Yisrael, a tzaddik. So the Shalva that tzaddikim want, and they're correct in wanting it, Hashem should make their lives materially easy. They should work harder and earn more Olam Haba. This is the pshat. Tzaddikim want serenity. This means the reason they want the serenity is in order they should be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu peacefully, and in that peaceful condition they'll be able to grow in Yiddishkeit. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem says, lay dying, let tzaddikim, it's not up for tzaddik Olam Haba. Why does he want Olam Haba? The tzaddik is correct. The tzaddik is absolutely right that if he's physically and materially provided for and safe and secure, he'll be a better Yid. So what's Hashem's objection? Because if Hashem gave you Gashmias, so you should be able to serve Hashem appropriately, have a ke'ein kibul schar. It will be similar to a reward, which happens at the end of one's Avodas Hashem. A tzaddik doesn't want pizza with extra cheese. A tzaddik doesn't want Olam Haba. A tzaddik wants a good physical life to be able to serve a Yid better, Hashem better. And he's right, but Hashem doesn't like it. Why? Not because he's wrong in his argument that if life is good, I'll serve you better, but because it's ke'ein kibul schar, has a taste of schar. Tzaddikim shouldn't want schar in this life. And that's why Hashem doesn't give it to him. Now what about Yaakov? Bottom of page 119. This is what happened to Yaakov Avinu. Let's go. He wants to have serenity and peace. Niskaven the Shalva Shleima Ruchnis. He wants a spiritual serenity and peace. He should be able to serve Hashem peacefully. He's justified. The fact that on him springs the tragedy of Yosef, his current level. Who didn't deserve it. However, he wanted Shalva, which he didn't deserve, so he had more tzaras. However, safeness, turn to page 120. In the end, his desire was satisfied. He got what he wanted, also in this life, where the best years of Yankov's life was in Mitzrayim. So he got what he wanted. He wanted Shalva, and he's right in wanting Shalva. Why shouldn't he want Shalva? Because it's Ke'en Kibus Chad. That's the Rebbe's Svara. It's similar to reward. But because he wanted it, he got it. How did he get it? He went back into hell. Pardon my candor. He went through the story of Yosef HaTzadik, and then the last years, the 17 remaining years of his life, were the best years of his life. So it's not wrong for a tzaddik to want it. But it is wrong for a tzaddik to want it. Now that doesn't make any sense. It's not wrong for a tzaddik to want it because the tzaddik is not asking for vacation. He's asking for opportunity to serve Hashem better. It is wrong because it's ke'en kibus chad. It looks like reward. And then the Rebbe concludes, Yaakov wanted it. He didn't deserve it. But he got it in the end after going through the tzad of Yosef. So far so good. Let's keep going. I'm on page 120. On a deeper level. Yaakov Avinu did merit at the very end of his life to have this serenity. Is it's because the tzad of Yosef came to him. Claimer, in other words, to raise up Yaakov Avinu to a higher level of Avodas Hashem. He should be deserving to live in serenity in this world. Yosef had to happen. By Yosef happening, Yaakov was able to reach a higher madrega. It is known when a person serves Hashem through difficulty, it purifies the person, and therefore a milas adam, it raises the person up. The madrega is geveyes Yosef Hashem to higher levels and steps. This is what happened here. Yankov's work under duress when Yosef disappears, that's the reason why Zocha Leisha B'Shalva Ilmaz. First of all, the Rebbe says a tzaddik shouldn't want Shalva Ilmaz because in Kibbutz Chad. Second of all, the Rebbe is saying when you want this, Hashem is going to give it to you. But in order to get it, you have to earn it. In order to earn it, you have to go back through tzaddas. V'alpiza Yesh Yashiv, which explains why why would the Pasha be called peace when the whole Pasha is a struggle? Answers the Rebbe, you're right, the Pasha talks about bad events, but every bad event is leading to Vayeshev Yankiv. The wrath of Yosef's disappearance, the preparation, which brings around the serenity, so you have a Pasha, that's all about Tzaddis. But you don't name the Pasha Tzaddis, you name the Pasha Vayeshev. Because the name of the Pasha reveals the point of all the Tzaddis. And the end of all the Tzaddis, which is Vayeshev, that came later. So Yaakov is not wrong for wanting the Shalva. He shouldn't have wanted it because it's Ke'en Kibbutz Chad. On a deeper level, Yaakov wanted a Vayeshev, the Eibishter gave him the Vayeshev, but he had to go through the Tzad of Yosef as well. But now comes the final point of the Rebbe. We're on page 121. This is, if you will, even deeper. Nachtiv. Shalva II she'oisa bikesh Yankiv. The serenity Yankiv desired, he deserved at the moment that he asked for it. However, Eina oisa hashalva, it's not the same serenity she'nitnale, which was given to him, and he got al yedei hakafat alav rugzo she'yosef, through the wrath of Yosef. In other words, this is a new idea. It's not the pshat. Yankiv wanted something. He didn't deserve it. In order to make him deserve it, he had to go through Rugz Yosef. No. Yankiv wanted something. What he wanted, he deserved already. But Hashem decided to give Yankiv more than he deserved. But in order to give Yankiv more than he deserved, he had to have a whole new tzaddah. That's the pshat. Kikanal, bakashosei sheyankiv leisha b'shalva hoya. All Yankiv wanted was rakshiyuchel la'avadas Hashem mitech menuch. Hashem should give him enough parnasa, enough safety, enough security, enough what he needs. He brought Hashem. That's all he wanted. He deserved it. L'shalva zu, this level of serenity, kvar hoya roi, oz hoya roi. He already deserved it. So really, Yankiv doesn't need any more tzaddas. And as I explained to you at the beginning of last week's class and the classes before, you should understand that the way the Sefer Bereshis works, Genesis works, is from Vayeshev till the end is not the story of the Avos, it's the story of the Shvatim, as we'll see in the next class. Lech Lecha and Vayera is Avraham. Chayesare is Avraham and Yitzchak. Toldos is Yitzchak and Yaakov and Esav. Vayetze and Vayishlach is Yaakov and Esav. Vayeshev is Yosef and his brothers. Miketz is Yosef and his brothers. Vayigish Yosef and his brothers. Vayechi is Yosef and his brothers. But Yaakov is there also. Why? Because Yaakov wants something, and because he wants something, he goes through more and he gets more. So in as much as Yaakov needed to do to fulfill his mission, Vayishlach ends Yaakov's life. Because of this Bikesh B'Shalva, Yaakov is all tangled up in his children's struggles. Their avodah to bring him to a higher madrega. Says the Rebbe, what Yaakov wanted one thing. Had the Eibush given Yaakov that one thing, this whole thing wouldn't have happened. Yaakov wanted to have comfort and safety. You can say Hashem, learn that. Had he gotten that, everything would have been fine. What about Yosef and his brothers going to Egypt? Whatever, there's ways the Eibush could have done it, that for them it was a golf, for Yaakov it wasn't a golf. But Hashem made the decision to give Yaakov a shalva he didn't ask for. What's the difference? So the Rebbe continues. Aval HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ratza, the Eibush decided, top of the second column, 1-1. Yaakov yiske l'shalva b'shleimusa. Yaakov should get a serenity he wasn't even interested in, which was elam chatira b'chayecha, to experience elam haba. In other words, shegam be'elam hazeh yiske l'matzav shel elam haba, that he should deserve in this life also elam haba. So the Rebbe's final answer is that Yaakov didn't make any mistake. Not the mistake was small. There was no mistake. What Yaakov wanted, he was entitled to. A comfortable Gashmizik life. Hashem responded to his wanting a comfortable Gashmizik life to give him Olam Haba, Olam Chatira B'chayecha, and it required comfort of Rugdash Yosef. So the final answer is that it wasn't a mistake on Yaakov's part, it was a decision on God's part. I'm going to give you more than you bargained for, but we're going to have to bargain some more. Bottom of the page.
He was only in the farm for like 17 years, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And like Yosef was missing for 22 years, so it doesn't seem like he got so much greater reward for all the thing he went through.
I'm convinced. But we don't understand tzaddikim, we don't understand tzaddis, and we don't understand schar. So evidently those 17 years were pretty good years. His goal as Yaakov Avinu was complete. He went through Esav, he went through Lavan, he went through Rachel, he went through everything. He's done his shlichus. Now he has years to live. Let him learn a daven. That's all. The Bikesh is adding to Yaakov's life a new shlichus, which was never part of his life. It was part of his children's life. You understand? Mm-hmm. What the Rebbe is now explaining is he wasn't even asking for it. What he was asking for, he was entitled to. The Eibush decided to give him more, and in order to give him more, he had to go through more. Says the Rebbe. Listen to this words. Bottom of page 121. Hashalva shabikesh Yaakov. What Yaakov wanted, he shalva shabaged and Ephraim, a peace which he was entitled to. Shalva kazu, such a serenity, shabakechem shal b'nei adam lagia leha, a human being could reach this on his own. You can seek it and you can ask for it. This Hashem decided to give Yaakov Shalva kazu, the kind of serenity she'eina begeder hanivraim. It's not within the limitations of creations. It's impossible for a person lagia leha b'keach atzmei to reach it on his own. So the final answer is that Yaakov made no mistake. The Eibush decided to give him more. Okay? Page 122 now, second column. The reason why Hutzrach lihiyes kafat alav rugzash Yosef, he had to go through the wrath of Yosef's disappearance, is ki l'shalva zu, to achieve a serenity which is beyond human capacity, which is a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Loi haya efshe, was impossible agia to reach bekeach atzmei vavidas of his own work. It required a special additional test and a special kind of test, and only through this should raise him up and lift him up above his limitations and his measurements. And I'm going to skip the text. I'll tell you what it says by heart. Very interesting concept. In Chassidus and in Torah, they talk about something called birurim, elevating sparks. They talk about doing tshuva, elevating sparks. And they talk about going through tests. What's the difference between elevating sparks, tshuva, and going through tests? The answer in short is when you elevate a spark, you're fixing the Eibishter's world. When you do tshuva, you're fixing an even darker part of the Eibishter's world. When you go through a test, you're not fixing the world at all. Because tests are not real. You're fixing only yourself. So when a person goes into Golus, and you tell him, oh, you went through Golus, you elevated sparks. He understands the justice. A person goes into Golos and Achman Latan does Avedas and then does tshuva for them. Say, oh, you elevated even lower sparks. He understands the justice. A person goes into Golos and he's giving a test. He has raised up the world not at all. He simply revealed more of his neshama. He says, do me a favor. What do I need it for? A test, holds the Rebbe, does not improve the world. It improves only you. Now think about this. Lavan was elevating sparks or a test? Sheep, the whole situation. Esav, elevating sparks or a test? Elevated, he prepared Esav for Mashiach. Yosef's disappearance. What sparks is he elevating? That he suffers thinking his son is dead when his son is alive, that's not elevating any sparks. It's a test. It's a nisayon. It's the kind of challenge which Yaakov can't possibly see the benefits. Going to Lavan, he could see the benefits. Dealing with Esav, he could see the benefits. Struggling with a disappearing son, what benefit could there possibly be? Says the Rebbe, when a human being is supposed to achieve his shleimus as a person, Hashem gives him things to elevate. When a human being is given Ilm Haba, he gives a test. And the human being says, I don't understand the purpose. And that's the whole idea. Because it makes no sense, it brings to the time Madrege. That's the story. Bikish Yaakov Leisha B'Shalva. Yaakov wants serenity and peace because he finished his elevation of sparks. Hashem chooses to give him Ilm Haba. For this, it's not enough another test. It has to be a Yosef-like test. The kind of test that neither at the moment nor even later on would Yaakov see the elevating aspect. He would simply see the test vis-a-vis himself, which raises him up to that Madrega. And that's the Rebbe's final answer. Yaakov wanted one thing. Hashem chose him to give him something different. And that something different required not stam an Nisayim, but an Nisayim which seems so futile and so useless, which is the only way he could reach this Madrega. You understand? And then the Rebbe concludes with the point you made. That he doesn't give it to you until you ask. Although Yaakov asks for apples, and Yaakov is giving him oranges. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mitzava L'Tlas and Shal Tzadikim, Hashem loves when we ask him for things. And if we don't ask, we don't get. So Yaakov asks for Shalva. And the Abisha says, I'm going to give you Malach of Naim, Shalva. More Shalva than you can handle. And the Rebbe finishes the Sikha with a lesson that that's how Mashiach is. You don't ask for Mashiach, you're not going to get him. Ask for Mashiach. So the final point is, and again, this sort of brings it all together. Yaakov Avinu's Shlichis is over. He's entitled to Shalva. But Bikish, he wants. He really wants what he's entitled to. But because there was a Bakasha, Hashem gives him even more, and the rest is history. So when we learn Vayeshev, Miketz, Vayigash, Vayechi, there's two readings. Where there's Vayeshev, Miketz, Vayigash, Vayechi, how Yaakov is going through another goal, achieving a new Geula, Bikish, Yaakov, Leisha, B'Shalva. And there's Vayeshev, Miketz, Vayigash, Vayechi as it relates to the children. Now my plan is that we're going to learn these Parshas through the prism of the Shvatim, not Yaakov. And whatever Sichos the Rebbe there are in Yaakov will incorporate, but we're sort of done with Yaakov. Yaakov went through his life. We understand his struggles, we understand his reward, and we also understand why he went back to struggling, because he wanted a higher kind of Shalva. Let us now move on to the Shvatim.